How does love fall apart? Not in a single moment, not from a single word, but through a chain of small betrayals, hidden hints, and reckless decisions. This is not just a story about infidelity. It's a story about the choices we all make when standing on the edge between the past and the future. Imagine an ordinary dinner, the familiar scent of home, but one word changes everything. Ashton. A name that turns a cozy evening into a point of no return. Where will jealousy lead? Can love survive betrayal? And most importantly, what will you do when you realize it's already over? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I can't say for certain when it began. The slow unraveling of the woman I had married. Maybe it crept in over time, hidden within the mundane, slipping past unnoticed until it was too late to ignore. Or perhaps it had always lingered beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. But that night, as I sat across from Penelope at the dinner table, there was no mistaking it anymore. It was an ordinary Friday. I had made dinner, grilled chicken with roasted potatoes, one of her old favorites. The house smelled familiar, warm, the way a home should. Yet Penelope seemed indifferent, perched at the kitchen counter, phone in hand, her fingers scrolling, tapping, scrolling again. A faint smile played on her lips, but it wasn't for me. I set her plate down in front of her. "What's funny?" I asked, keeping my voice light, though something in my gut already warned me I wouldn't like the answer. She looked up, momentarily startled, as if she had forgotten I was even there. "Oh, nothing," she said. "Just texting Hannah." Hannah, her best friend. That wasn't out of the ordinary. I took a slow bite, chewing thoughtfully. "What's she up to?" A brief hesitation, barely a second, but I caught it. "She's having a birthday party tonight." I nodded. "That's nice." Then, a little too quickly, she added, "It's at Ashton's place." The fork paused halfway to my mouth. I set it down deliberately and turned to face her. "I'm sorry." "Where?" She exhaled, already bracing for the reaction. "Ashton's." Ashton, her ex-husband. A cold weight settled in my chest. "You've got to be joking." She rolled her eyes, nudging her food around with her fork. "It's not what you think, Eric. Hannah's birthday is close to Ashton's, and since they're friends, they decided to celebrate together. It's nothing." A dry chuckle escaped me. "That's the best you've got? Out of all the places in the world, Hannah's birthday has to be at your ex's house?" She let her fork drop with a sharp clatter. "I knew you'd react like this." "Like what?" I leaned forward, my gaze steady. "Like a husband who doesn't want his wife drinking at her ex's place?" She sighed, rubbing her temple as if I were exhausting her. "For God's sake, Eric. It's just a party. Ashton doesn't matter." "Then why are you so determined to go?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because it's my best friend's birthday. I'm not going to be rude." I studied her, letting the silence stretch before speaking, my voice calm. "If you go, we're done." She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "You can't be serious." I didn't waver. "I mean it, Penelope. If you walk out that door tonight, you're walking out of this marriage." Her expression hardened. "You don't get to control me." "No, I don't," I admitted. "But I do get to choose what I will and won't accept." She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "Nothing is going to happen, Eric. I'll even text you throughout the night if that helps." "I don't need updates," I said. "I need a wife who respects this marriage." She scoffed, pushing her plate away as if the conversation wasn't worth her time. "I'm going. You're overreacting." I leaned back, nodding to myself more than to her. "All right, Penelope, do what you want." And she did. She stood, grabbed her phone, and walked away, her dinner left untouched. I listened to the sound of her footsteps fading down the hall, the rustle of fabric as she changed in the bedroom. I remained at the table, staring at the empty seat across from me. I wasn't angry, not yet, because deep down I already knew. I knew that the moment she stepped inside her ex-husband's house, she was no longer my wife. Not long after, I heard the front door open. She left, without hesitation, without looking back, without even a moment of doubt. Just a woman moving forward into a choice she had made long before tonight. And in that moment, something within me shifted. I should have felt rage, should have burned with betrayal. But I didn't. Instead, I felt something much worse. Nothing. A cold, hollow certainty settled in my chest, immovable and quiet. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had loved, had just made it clear where I stood. And it wasn't beside her. The house felt different, emptier. But it wasn't just the silence she left behind. It was something much deeper than that. The house felt vacant, stripped of its usual warmth, leaving only a silence that pressed against the walls heavier than ever before. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sitting here waiting for her return. Instead, I remained in the dim glow of the living room, phone in hand, as the first message arrived. Just got here. Everything's fine. My thumb hovered over the screen before I set the phone aside without responding. 5 minutes later, another notification lit up the display. People are just hanging out, nothing crazy. Hope you're okay? Hope I was okay? A slow exhale left me as I shook my head. Did she really think I was sitting here, eagerly awaiting her updates? Did she believe a few hollow reassurances would smooth this over? An hour passed before the next message appeared. I promise it's not weird. Hope you're not mad. Mad? No. Done? Absolutely. I stared at her words, the sheer obliviousness of them. It was then that I understood. Penelope had never truly considered what this meant for us. To her, this was just another disagreement, a temporary rift that time would effortlessly mend. She assumed she could make her choices, walk out that door, and return to find everything unchanged. She was wrong. I stood, slid my phone into my pocket, and grabbed my keys. If she could make her own decisions, so could I. I refused to sit here like some fool, waiting for scraps of reassurance. If she thought there would be no consequences to her choices, she was about to learn otherwise. I climbed into my car, gripping the wheel for a moment before pulling out of the driveway. I had no particular destination in mind, but I knew one thing. I wasn't staying home. She expected me to be there, drowning in my emotions. Instead, I had somewhere else to be. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of a bar I hadn't set foot in for years, back when my life was different, back when I still had choices. The neon sign flickered against the night, casting a dull red glow over the gravel. From inside, muffled music and laughter drifted onto the street, a stark contrast to the suffocating quiet I had left behind. Stepping inside, the atmosphere wrapped around me, voices overlapping, glasses clinking, people lost in their own stories. It was oddly comforting, this place where no one cared about past regrets or unsaid words. I found a seat at the bar and ordered a whiskey. For a long while, I simply stared at the amber liquid, letting the weight of the night settle over me. Somewhere out there, Penelope was at a party with her ex, sending messages I had no desire to read. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't in years: freedom. Then I saw her. She sat a few stools away, caught my eye, and smiled. In that brief moment, something inside me stirred. Her name was Stella. We started talking, and suddenly, I felt seen in a way I hadn't in so long. Meanwhile, my phone vibrated on the counter. Another message. Just checking in. Miss you. I ignored it. More messages followed, each one left unread. By midnight, they stopped, and I didn't care. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen, already knowing who it was before I even read the message. "Where are you?" "I'm home." The words were riddled with typos, the kind only made by unsteady, drunken fingers. A smirk played at my lips. She had spent the night drinking, laughing, carrying on as if nothing had changed, and now, in her half-drunken state, she finally wondered where I was. I still didn't answer. Instead, I took another sip of my drink, letting the hum of conversation pull me further away from whatever illusion she was clinging to. She had expected me to be home, lost in my thoughts, dissecting every word of her messages as if they mattered. But I wasn't waiting anymore. By the time I left the bar, the sky was beginning to lighten. It was nearly 5 a.m. The night air was crisp, the streets still and quiet as I drove through town, taking my time. There was no rush. Every turn, every pause at an empty intersection, every extra moment I stretched the drive out. It all served a purpose. For the first time in our marriage, she was the one waiting for me. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for the faint glow of the kitchen light. I stepped inside, shutting the door with quiet finality. The silence was expectant, as if the house itself held its breath, waiting for something to unfold. I didn't check the bedroom. I didn't look to see if she was awake, waiting for me. I passed our room without a glance and walked straight to the guest room. I wasn't sleeping beside her tonight. She had made her choices. Now she could live with them, alone. I didn't waste time thinking about what she'd say in the morning. I was too drained, too finished. Morning arrived with the scent of coffee and the unmistakable weight of a pounding headache. Hers, not mine. Penelope stood in the kitchen, looking miserable, her hangover etched into every tired line of her face. Good. She turned the moment she saw me. "Why didn't you answer my messages?" she asked. I poured myself a cup of coffee, my movements slow, deliberate. I was busy. Her eyes searched mine, looking for something, anything. "Where were you all night?" I took a sip. "Out." Her voice sharpened, slicing through the morning haze. "Why didn't you sleep in our bed?" Without a word, I walked past her. "Eric, talk to me." She followed, her voice laced with urgency. But I had nothing left to say. Ignoring her entirely, I strolled into the living room and settled into my chair, cradling my coffee, determined to drown out her endless complaints. She was fuming, but for once, I couldn't bring myself to care. An hour later, I picked up my keys and walked toward the door. Penelope was already standing there, arms crossed like a barricade. "Where do you think you're going?" I didn't even meet her gaze. "Out." Without waiting for a response, I pulled the door shut behind me. I drove straight to a lawyer's office. It was time to put a stop to this, to secure what was mine before she could take anything else. She had controlled the narrative for too long. That was finished. Over the next few days, I kept my distance. No small talk, no explanations, no acknowledgement of her anger. She simmered, but that was her burden to bear, not mine. When the divorce papers were finally prepared, I returned to sign them. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing, just ink sealing the inevitable, officially closing the door on a marriage that had died the night she walked away. On my way home, I crossed paths with Justin, an acquaintance I'd never thought much of. He spotted me, hesitated, then sighed heavily. "Eric, I've been debating whether to say this, but you deserve to know." I narrowed my eyes. "Know what?" He glanced around, lowering his voice. "I was at Ashton's party. I saw Penelope in the kitchen with him. Alone. They were kissing." Silence fell between us, heavy and unmoving. "She backed off the second she saw me," he continued, "but it happened. And later, when the party wound down while everyone else left, she stayed." I absorbed his words without a flicker of emotion. "Thanks for telling me, Justin." His expression carried something close to guilt, as if expecting me to be devastated. But I wasn't. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even hurt. I had already moved on. The moment she decided to go to that party, our marriage had ended. Her betrayal was just the final nail in a coffin that had already been sealed. That evening, the doorbell rang, its chime cutting through the silence. Penelope, unaware of what awaited her, went to answer it. Standing on the other side was my lawyer's assistant, his expression unreadable as he held out a folder. She hesitated before taking it, her grip tightening as if she already sensed what was inside. Divorce papers. I stepped into the hallway, watching as she flipped through the pages, the color draining from her face. Her hands trembled slightly as she processed the reality staring back at her. "You can't be serious," she whispered, barely audible. I crossed my arms, my stance firm. "I warned you. If you went to that party, we were done." Her disbelief flared into anger as she threw the papers onto the counter. "It was just a party," she snapped. A short laugh escaped me, void of humor. "Are you sure that's all it was?" She stiffened, her breath hitching. "What are you saying?" I took a step forward, my voice measured but unshakable. "I know you kissed him. I know you stayed." All the remaining color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, scrambling for an excuse, but nothing came. When she finally managed to speak, her voice was weak. "Eric, I was drunk. I cut her off before she could finish. "Save it." There was nothing left to discuss. Exhaling, I turned away, sparing her one last look. "Pack your things and leave." She stood motionless, struggling to process what was happening. But I wasn't going to argue. It was over. I was done. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Penelope walked away with nothing. The house had been mine long before our marriage, and I had ensured my assets were untouchable. Whatever she had hoped to take, she left empty-handed. Meanwhile, I had started seeing Stella, the woman I met at the bar that night. What began as a distraction soon grew into something genuine, something effortless. With her, there were no fights, no battles to win, no endless attempts to prove my worth. It was easy, natural, the way love was supposed to be. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking back. This story has come to an end. Love doesn't fall apart overnight. It dies slowly, through a lack of trust, unspoken words, and actions that prioritize personal desires over shared values. In a relationship, it's not enough to simply be present. Respect and understanding are key. Every choice has consequences. Betrayal is not a mistake. It's a conscious decision, one that comes with a price sooner or later. Sometimes the point of no return arrives before we even realize it. And when one person chooses to leave, the other is left with only one decision: to suffer or to start anew. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you